All right, welcome. My name is Sophie Alexander. I'm the owner and lead practitioner at the Nutritional Wellness Center in Ithaca, New York, and I'm really excited to talk to you this evening about the silent invaders, right? The overlooked root of allergies. It is allergy season. Been having lots of clients coming in suffering. I totally identify with that. A big part of my early health story is dealing with allergies. It's kind of one of the first things I remember um, dealing with as a child. And in my family, it wasn't really thought of as a health concern. So I have a different perspective on that now in retrospect. At the time, it was just like, oh, okay, we have allergies too, meaning my mom and my dad. Here, try this antihistamine. And so, oh, if that doesn't work, okay, switch to another. So I definitely remember being on Claritin. I remember being on Allegra. I remember being on those things and still suffering. I mean, I loved my cat and I lived with cats, but I really I struggled being around the cats. Um, but it wasn't until I got older and, of course, started having more health issues, even more digestive and blood sugar handling issues. And then soon after undergrad, got Lyme disease. And then that's when a lot of things came crashing down. That I started doing nutrition work. I actually started as a client at the Nutritional Wellness Center in my late 20s, and I started to understand how all these things were tied together and how the allergies were another way my body was talking to me, and symptoms that I was dealing with that I will tie into today. And all the things I'm going to talk about today are all things that I did to help myself or work on getting to the bottom of the allergies. And I'm really excited to share that, currently I don't deal with any environmental allergies in the spring or the fall where, gosh, I used to be miserable. But I mean, yeah, even more recently, past year or so, if some symptoms have flared up, because of these principles I'm going to be talking to you about, and the tools that I'm going to share are all things that I do and that I use with my clients to help them get to the bottom of it as well as just deal with the active symptoms at the time. All right, so if you are tired, of battling seasonal sniffles and dealing with the rashes, of congestion, the headaches, the itchy eyes, want to understand how it ties in with your digestive issues, right? And even if you're being really careful, running air filters, or maybe even you're already taking over-the-counter antihistamines, we want to get to the bottom of it, right? And what if I told you the real culprit isn't necessarily what's outside, right? And you shouldn't blame all these pollens or these things that are in the air. You should understand why is your body reacting to it when some people don't, right? So the real culprit is inside you. But before we get into that, let's talk about the liver. So we want you to understand better what the liver actually does. Its job is a lot about conversion and detoxification, excuse me. The liver uses enzymes to convert harmful substances, like different toxins you get exposed to, medications, alcohol, and different metabolic wastes from your body. It converts them into less harmful or water-soluble compounds. And then once converted, these substances can be safely eliminated through your bile, right, into the stool, or through the kidneys into the urine. And this is how your body, so smartly is designed to handle so many things that it's exposed to. And we call this, in very simple terms, your phase 1, phase 2, and then liver detoxification cycles, with phase 3 being elimination out of the body. But poor liver, when it's overwhelmed, like an overworked employee who never gets a break, it really struggles to do its job. And we see this as one of the primary areas when we're working with clients at the Nutritional Wellness Center, when we're doing our muscle testing. The liver is one of the main areas that shows up for almost everybody. And so then allergens, become the final straw. Those pollens, those dusts, those molds, spores, they become the final straw, and they trigger all of these reactions. So some other signs you can be aware of that your liver may be asking for help, even if you don't have allergies, to be honest, Are you waking between 1 and 3 a.m. really frequently? Because that's when the liver works its hardest to run your detoxification cycles at night. You dealing with frequent headaches, feeling foggy, dealing with stubborn belly fat, even if you're overall eating well, dealing with itchy skin, mild rashes, and even hormonal imbalances are all a sign of a tired liver. So the liver plays a huge role filtering and processing allergens. Its job isn't just to process alcohol or toxins. It helps clear histamine. It helps break down and clear the histamine, the chemical responsible for allergy symptoms. So your sneezing, your rashes, your watery eyes, your itching. So when the liver is overburdened, whether that is by toxins from a poor diet or in air or in the water, environmental pollutants, medications, even if it's stress, it can't process the histamine efficiently. This can lead to a histamine buildup in the body, a condition often called histamine intolerance, which can look and feel like chronic allergies. So over time, this buildup just weakens your body's natural defenses, can make you more hypersensitive to things that never used to bother you before, even more reactive to pollen, pet dander, certain foods. I know I really experienced this. Like when I was younger, I had, the environmental allergies to pollens, and I couldn't cuddle the cat super close or I'd get crazy itchy. But then as I got older, gosh, I couldn't leave clothes sitting for 3 months, right? Like if I had a winter sweater that I didn't wear all summer long, like I literally couldn't touch it. Um, Before I had to have my husband take it and put it in the wash because that the dust mites that would build up on that would just, I'd breathe them in and I'd be reacting for a long time. And so that hypersensitivity was just building with me as my liver was more and more burdened and backed up. But unfortunately, the fact that I was dealing with allergies from a pretty young age already showed, right, that my liver was pretty tired. So I want to teach you about the drainage funnel. And this is a concept that I learned from cell core biosciences. Um, and it transformed how I worked with clients when I learned this and helped, and helped me personally really move my health forward. So I want you to think and understand that your body has its own drainage funnel where your cells drain into your organs and tissues, and then your organs and tissues drain into your lymph. Your lymph drains into your liver and your bile ducts. And there can be a little subset of that level too, where you've got your skin that drains, through your sweat. Your kidneys, of course, clean things out through your bladder and your urine. And then, of course, you detoxify through your lungs as well. But one of the main paths the body uses is the liver and the bile ducts, moving things into the colon, have a bowel movement, and it leaves your body. So really to regain health and regain balance in your body, your drainage funnel must be working. And I want you to understand why it matters so much for allergies, because each layer must be open and functioning properly or the funnel backs up, right? And I mean, that can be literally backed up in the sense that you're not having a bowel movement every day or multiple bowel movements every day. So then, yes, you're just right there. We know you don't have good drainage. But it can be more subtle than that, right? Your liver isn't clearing things properly, so things back up into the lymph. And then you've got some itching or you've got a little bit of rashing, right? That's a sign also that your drainage funnel is clogged. So the toxins start spilling over. You start getting the allergy symptoms, the skin rashes, the brain fog, the digestive problems. I mean, it can build to a level where even there's too much cellular debris. The cells aren't cleaning out properly. I see that when there's a lot of fatigue as well, or other issues that we tie back to cellular dysfunction. So this is so important with allergy relief because so often people they try to move things along too quickly. They use that catchword detox, right? So they're using cleanses or supplements, but they're not working on this drainage step first. And so, especially with the liver and the gut aren't clearing things properly, try to move some kind of toxin or you try to do some um, gut cleanse, and toxins just flood the system instead of leaving it. You feel even more overloaded, more allergies, more rashes, more histamine response. You don't feel better. Um, and traditional allergy treatments are just not looking at it from this angle, right? They work and focus on managing symptoms. So you take antihistamine medications, just help your body clear that histamine. You do topical creams. You just work so hard to avoid things, running air purifications, working to not touch dust or yeah, be around animals, right? But it's like mopping the floor, but not fixing the leak. So you're just constantly trying to keep up with it, catch up. You're not correcting why it's happening. So unless you address the root cause, this overburdened liver, the allergies will keep coming back. And gosh, and in my situation, they just keep worsening. Yeah, you just have a more and more heightened reaction. So we need to unmask these silent invaders because I want you to think of your body as a house, right? And you got to clean your house. Yeah, I know it's no fun, but you've got to clean it. And if you don't, things build up. And I also want you to keep the analogy in mind with this is that sometimes you do a lighter clean, right? And then sometimes you have to do a deeper clean. And sometimes areas, especially if they've really built up for a long time, are going to need multiple cleanings. So um, this is where we begin when we need to find these guys, right? Because sometimes they can be hiding under other layers of garbage. If the analogy of your house, they're hiding under layers of dust or all the clutter, and it takes some time to find them. And what the them that I'm talking about are parasites. So I find one of the two biggest themes I see with my clients who are struggling with allergies, especially the ones who are struggling more severely with allergies, is they're dealing with parasites, and often they're dealing with mold exposure as well, either current or in the past. And often they're dealing with both, and I'll explain kind of how they perpetuate each other. I'll talk a little bit about more mold in a moment, but first the bugs, right? So I want you to understand how the parasites impact the liver and allergies. I mean, parasites do excrete their own toxins. So certain parasites like liver flukes and roundworms or giardia, they live off your own nutrients. They produce waste that the liver then again has to filter out. And this just contributes to these detox organs that I've been talking about being constantly busy and more inflamed. And some parasites specifically target the liver, and they really love the bile ducts, especially these liver flukes. And so they can live in there, right? They can hide out in there. They impair bile flow. And the bile flow is so crucial for detoxification because it's really where your body puts things that should be eliminated from the body. It puts it into the bile. The bile is then released into the colon, well, small intestine first, right? And uh, gosh, we know we use that bile to break down fats, but we also use it to clear out these toxins. Um, and so, when the bugs are clogging things up, this leads to toxin accumulation in the bloodstream, and again triggering worsening allergic reactions. And gosh, and just another level of this is that the parasites are another thing that your immune system needs to respond to. So now your immune system is just even further heightened, right? It's reacting to like everything because it's so on such high alert. So parasites are more common than you think. They can come from contaminated food and water. They can come from soil and environmental exposures. It can come from poor sanitation, poor hygiene practices. Animals are a biggie. We also can get them from insects. Some of them particularly are passed person to person. And you can get them while you're traveling, but they're not just, other parts of the world, other countries things. It's very common in the United States too. I see it a lot from folks with the lakes around here and the Finger Lakes. I see it with folks getting it from their animals, um, and sometimes contaminated foods. Sushi can be a big culprit. Pork sometimes. Yeah, common. And they can stay, as I was saying, that house analogy, they can be buried and they can be hiding, or they can be layers deep in your house for years. Yeah, for a long, long time. And your body um, is trying to handle it. But one of the ways it's handling it is just showing as all these other symptoms, right? Digestive symptoms, allergy symptoms. Your body's overwhelmed, but it's trying as best as can. So a couple more details about parasites. They're categorized into several groups. There's protozoa kinds that are single-celled organisms that often reproduce within the host. And then there's helminths that are multicellular worms that live and feed within their host. And of the categories of helminths, there's nematodes, which are roundworms, which are very common in cats and dogs. Cestodes, which are different kinds of tapeworms, and then the trematodes are the flukes that I was mentioning earlier that like to live in the bile ducts. And then there are ectoparasites, parasites that live on the surface of the host, and this can be more like ticks, fleas, lice, and mites. So a parasite cleanse is super important, and I highly recommend that people do them at least twice a year. And I see that the spring and the fall, this change of the seasons, when there's more of these onset of allergies, can be a really helpful time to do it. It's a dietary or supplement regimen aimed at detoxifying the body and eliminating parasites such as the protozoa, the worms, the other microorganisms that I was just talking about. These cleanses in general often involve various herbs and supplements and specific dietary recommendations, just working to create an environment in the body that's hostile to hosting these parasites, right? And in our office, we really customize this. So we work to prep the body's drainage, just get the system ready to be able to hit the bugs, and knock them back and do all the different layers and levels of cleaning that need to happen in the body. But their Cellcore does do an excellent parasite cleanse that is a standalone as well. That I've seen folks who don't work with us one-on-one still have excellent results. And then they often choose to work with us because they're like, all right, I got to get at this a little deeper. I got to understand what's next. Let me share a little bit about that cleanse. It's called the Full Moon Challenge. And the reasoning behind that is that while a parasite cleanse can be really done at any time, and I was talking right about the spring and the fall, the full moon really can help it along. The full moon is relevant. Just actually because of the energy that it puts out. Have you ever noticed that you feel different at different times, right? This part of these cycles. Seasons are one cycle, and I do think that the parasites are definitely more active with the changing of the seasons of spring and fall. But within these cycles, there's the monthly cycle and the cycle of the full moon, and it really influences our neurotransmitters. And parasites like to feed off of these neurotransmitters, so they just become more active. They become more present. I have at the full moon. I have many, many clients who tell me they around the full moon is when they don't sleep as well, or they notice that their children act out more, or they catch themselves grinding their teeth way more, or their anxiety levels spike, or they have more digestive issues. And very often it is tied to the bugs being more active at this time. So if you are going to give Cellcore's Full Moon Challenge a try, right, take the energy of the full moon, do the parasite cleanse at the full moon. Often afterwards, people feel a lot better, right? Some folks actually pass parasites that they see in their stool. That's not everybody, but yeah, they've definitely had that happen. a lot of folks just notably improve digestive health, less bloating, less gas, better formed bowel movements. Overall, you're enhancing your immune function by doing it. People typically have increased energy levels. They're opening up those drainage pathways, so they're supporting detoxification. And by getting rid of these bugs, you're really improving your nutrient absorption because they are stealing your nutrients. So you can be eating really well, taking great quality supplements, and the bugs can be stealing these nutrients. And I see that a lot with blood work. We see these markers that indicate that someone's not getting enough Bs, or that their zinc levels are staying low, and we might even be supplementing with a good quality zinc at an excellent amount. And it's a real red flag that there's bugs there that we haven't found yet. And so the strategic timing of doing these cleanses at the full moon, sometimes it's just another layer of cleaning in the house, and we use these tools to uncover the bugs. And sometimes with the muscle testing, the bugs just show up when they're ready to be tackled. But it is so important, I think, to do the parasite cleanse with mindfulness, and to check in with someone who knows what they're doing with it, with a qualified practitioner. And it is one of these things that we do sell at the Nutritional Wellness Center, and give guidance about how to do it, but don't oversee it. But if the cleanse doesn't go well, you have worsening skin issues or worsening digestive issues, or you just don't feel any different doing it, it probably indicates that you need to do more prep and more work on your drainage pathways first. All right, so a little bit about mold, because I see that mold and parasites are very much linked, and mold is definitely a big one that I see impacting folks who are dealing with allergies. So mold produces mycotoxins, and these toxic compounds are invisible pollutants that you can inhale or ingest. It doesn't have to be a musty smelling house or room for there to be mold. And the mycotoxins are incredibly hard for the liver to break down. I find it's one of the hardest things for the liver to clear, because mold is tricky. And mold likes to trick our smart system, right? The liver puts the toxins into the bile, and then, as I said earlier, the bile moves into the digestive tract, and then the toxins are moved into the digestive tract that way, and then cleared out through the bowel movement. And our body, because it's a lot of work to make bile for the body, our body recycles a lot of bile as well. And those tricky mycotoxins, they stay attached in the bile. They don't like to get dumped off into the bowel. And so they like to stay, they get recirculated as that bile is getting recycled. They just circle back into the body, into the liver, and the toxin burden grows. The poor bile flow just gets slower and slower, more and more sluggish. And I often see the mold as then a root cause of why the allergy burden has built up so much, why that person is also just probably dealing with a lot of digestive issues, often a lot of skin issues. And so we have to get that mold moved out, right? Liver's so busy trying to deal with the toxin, struggles to keep up with these everyday detox processes, and that histamine just keeps building up, and the systemic inflammation grows and grows. So I have done whole mold talks before. On my YouTube channel, you can see my mold talk, where I really talk more about testing and identifying and go more into the science behind it. And so if you want to dive deeper into that, I really encourage you to, especially if you suspect it for you. But I want you to understand that this is something that we see a lot. And I often see it a lot with people who've just lived in mold a long time ago, right? Like, it's not even necessarily they're in it currently. But this toxicity burden on the liver started a long time ago in their life, and then everything just layered on top of it. And yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say about that, besides that, like, because the mycotoxins slow the bile flow so much, it really creates an environment where the bugs can proliferate too, right? And so it's just where, that's that chicken and the egg thing. Oh gosh, did the parasites come first? Or, did the mold come first? But I see in a lot of situations um, that we actually blame the infections more, right? But it's mold that just is keeping all those infections around. Um, the parasites being one. I know in my case, Lyme was a big piece too, where I couldn't figure out why my body wasn't clearing the Lyme disease. But I really learned in retrospect was because my system was so overburdened, probably from a young age, with mycotoxins. And then so I just had Lyme building up, I had parasites building up, and then I had to clear out the mold too. And that can be a long-term process. But I find that the more you whittle away at it, the more the body calms down. All right, but let's start talking about some more positive things, some tools, some remedies, some things that are proven to work so you can feel better acutely and long term. So I want to talk about some holistic remedies for allergy relief. There's a lot of herbal allies when it comes to allergies. There's nettle leaf, which is natural antihistamine that can reduce allergy symptoms without the drowsiness of over-the-counter meds. It's a yummy tea, or you can buy it in capsule form. Elderberry and astragalus root boost immune resilience and reduce the overactivity to allergens. And quercetin, which is a nutrient found in onions and apples and capers and buckwheat. It's a powerful antioxidant that stabilizes the mast cells, which are these immune cells that haven't been going into detail talking about, but are very much important with allergies. And the quercetin reduces the histamine release. And then some other supplements I like to use. I'll talk more about actually some of my favorite supplements later. A lot of them have these ingredients. But there's also vitamin C with bioflavonoids, acts as a natural antihistamine and anti-inflammatory. And then there's zinc and vitamin D3, which are critical nutrients for the immune system and decreasing hypersensitivity. And then I want to give you some tools for supporting your liver and drainage pathways, because that is just a daily practice we all need to do. So a morning ritual can be starting your day with warm water, lemon, and a pinch of salt. I really like the Real Salt brand. This stimulates bile flow and is a very gentle detox. It just wakes the liver up in the morning and gets things moving and gets things draining. The liver really loves beets. That actually beets help thin the bile and help move the bile. And then your green, like especially bitters, really help stimulate bile flow and stimulate digestive functions and stimulate the liver. So dandelion greens, my gosh, things are so green and prolific right now here in Ithaca. We've had so much rain. And so there are a ton of dandelion greens to eat, but they are very bitter. So yeah, I think they taste a little bit better if you actually cook them down actually versus eating them raw. But artichokes are also bitter. Turmeric is another bitter. Ginger too. So you could create a liver smoothie that has beetroot and ginger and lemon and cucumber in it, and that would all help. And there's some other wonderful herbs for the liver. I particularly like to use milk thistle, dandelion root, and burdock root. And you can eat all these things, have them in soup, or I like to use them as herbal extracts to help the liver process allergens more effectively. All right. I think nervous system work is really important when it comes to allergies too. The body is just so amped up, so on edge. So calming the nervous system can reduce this overreactivity and hypersensitivity. So breathing techniques, really underrated, not talked about nearly enough, but makes a huge difference. And so there's different breathing methods. that you can do to calm what's called your vagus nerve, which is a nerve that runs from the brain down to the gut. And this can reduce histamine reactions, and particularly ones that are triggered by stress. We so often don't breathe properly. We don't even know how to. Make sure that you're breathing through the nose and breathing into your abdomen, or diaphragmatic breathing versus just having it all be up in the chest. There are some wonderful herbs. Favorites of mine are ashwagandha and holy basil, also known as tulsi. They help the body balance its stress response. They reduce overall inflammatory responses of the body. And then another underrated but super important is sleep. Most people are not getting enough sleep. And it's just a key time for our bodies to drain. Actually, a lot of our brain drainage takes place at night. As I was talking to you about how the liver works, from liver time is more early morning. So need to be sleeping to be able to have the body correctly run these systems that it's so innately designed to do. And supporting the gut, right? I know there's whole talks I can do about digestive health, and the gut and the immune system. But supporting your gut is so important because 70% of your immune system lives in the gut. Actually, this is where so much of your lymphatic tissue is. And that's a huge role the nervous system plays too, with communication of the gut to the brain along the vagus nerve, is just all part of getting things calm and healing versus highly reactive. So probiotic rich foods nourish the microbiome: sauerkrauts, kimchis, coconut yogurt. If you tolerate dairy, then a organic, full fat, plain yogurt or kefir. They are so important for balancing gut flora and supporting the immune system and helping it reduce its overactivity. Specifically L-glutamine, which is really high in bone broth, and meat stocks in general, like supports intestinal lining. You can buy it as a supplement too, but it supports the intestinal lining repair, because so often with folks who have a lot of allergies, there's been a lot of immune reactivity over time. There's a lot of damage to the digestive tract. There's a leaky gut, which is a whole other topic as well. But it's just part of why the immune system has become so reactive in the digestive tract. So I already mentioned the bone broth. Yeah, it's really rich in collagen as well. And we find, healing up and tightening the junctions in the gut lining can really make a big difference with allergens as well. And eating anti-inflammatory foods, so that would be ginger, turmeric, wild blueberries, omega-3 rich foods like chia seeds, flax seeds. Salmon is a wonderful source of fish in general. It's a wonderful source of those omega-3 fatty acids. Pasture-raised eggs is another great source of omega-3 fatty acids, and grass-fed beef. All right, some other practices you can do that can really create a lot of symptom relief is doing neti pot or saline nasal rinses, right? It helps clear the pollens or the allergens directly from the nasal passages, can reduce acute congestion. But also we find this is a place where parasites can hang out as well. So doing rinses where you we have some formulas even that from Cellcore that are liquid antiparasitics, excuse me, because not finding my words right now. And put a small amount of that into the neti pot, or into a navage, which is another tool that actually forces the water up one nostril and then helps draw it from the other, so you don't have to do it yourself. And the navage is cool because you can actually see what's coming out, because we have had people pass parasites out of the sinuses. But you can put like a drop of para-3 in there, and some folks that can make a huge difference. And a big way where I see a lot of drainage get stuck for folks is in their lymph, and then that lymph is a system that needs pumping. It needs movement, right? Walking supports lymph. Vibration plates support lymph movement. Bouncing, like a trampoline bouncing, supports lymph movement. But dry brushing also is a way that you can help move the lymph along and just keep things flowing. And I love this tea recipe. I have used a lot of this in the past. You use some nettle leaf, some peppermint, some licorice root, some lemon, and honey if you want to make it taste better. But this can be really nice acute support if you're dealing with symptoms, and it's totally safe to have daily. And then I'll talk about some of my favorite supplements. Because sometimes you need, even if you're doing all the right things with diet, you're incorporating all these things, the body is just so overburdened, it really needs some stronger help. Antranex is one of my favorites. Gosh, been using it for the past 15 years to help people with allergies, and it gets such great results. It's a really unique supplement that supports the liver's ability to clear histamine from the bloodstream. It's actually a bovine liver fat extract and is known for enhancing liver function. And it just, I tell people it's like instead of taking an antihistamine, you can take Antranex. And what I love about it is you can take a little, and if that cuts it, great, then that's all you need. And you can also take a lot of it. I've had people take 12 an hour before if they were just miserable and they needed lots of clearing of histamine. Works great acutely too for bee stings or poison ivy exposure, anything where we're just trying to clear that histamine from the body. Allerco from Remedies is also another favorite of mine. It's got the herbs in it, some of the ones that I was speaking about earlier, that help the immune system. I see it as very much the herbs work on the immune system, they work on the liver, and just, it works so nicely, especially in conjunction with the Antranex. I find that it often enhances the effectiveness of the Antranex, so they just make a great team. And then the one that's been like muscle testing like crazy this past week, especially, is Cellcore's Cytoimmune. And so this product really works on supporting the immune system, reducing immune overactivity, and helping reduce allergen responses. Calms histamine, it calms inflammation. It's got a lot of the herbs in it that we've been talking over this time, and it's got the quercetin, and it's got some black cumin seeds. So there's actually a lot of ingredients with it. And you can take, again, it's a bit like the Antranex. You can take a smaller amount, and if that works, great, but you can also take much higher amounts too, if needed. And I find that because there's the synergy within product lines, if someone is needing to do a lot of work on parasites, on mold, I often reach for Cellcore products because they work so well in these key areas. And so then there's the synergy of the cytoimmune with that. All right, and that's the end of my talk for today. I really hope that you learned things that can help you think about where you need to dive in about understanding how yourself or a loved one is struggling. I hope you'll share this talk with somebody if they are miserable with allergies and you think they would benefit, or share our information with them so we can help them get to the bottom of it. I hope you took away some acute tools that you can use, as well as getting you thinking about where are you on this, the other layers of cleaning your house and understanding what needs to happen with your own drainage pathways. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.